It has just released the findings of its investigation into reports that it was hacked by the intelligence services. And it has found reasonable grounds to suggest that it was targeted by U.S. and U.K. spy agencies. But Gemalto says the hackers only got into its office networks.
What's worse than having your home or business computer hacked, your information compromised, and all your cute cat pictures gathered over the years from internet sources being wiped out, never to be seen again? This would be finding out that hack was all part of a scheme to get into your bank account legally, and you are just being thrilled to hand over all that electronic cash. It's happening, and it could happen to you. Our guest is Executive Director from Cause of Action, advocates for advocates for government accountability, and also on the lookout for real waste and fraud. I'll get it right there for you. Dan Epstein joins us. Dan, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Dan, this involves a company named Tiversa that was routinely engaging in fraud, and some even say mafia-style shakedowns. Give us a little background here.
Well, my organization, Cause of Action, as you pointed out, is committed to accountability in our government. And we do that through investigations of the government, as well as representing small businesses who have to fight back against the government when it overreaches. And one of our clients is a small cancer detection laboratory that we've represented in a battle against the Federal Trade Commission, and now have heard from a whistleblower who testified in the court proceeding a few weeks ago that Tiversa, which is a cybersecurity company that he used to be employed at, has been effectively hacking various different companies, and not only doing that, but extorting them. And if they don't hire Tiversa services, Tiversa has shared that information with the Federal Trade Commission to then go after those companies. So it's extortion by a crony company, and it's extortion in the alternative by our government. And that's what we've been fighting against.
Is there any idea how widespread this is? Because I will guarantee you there are many people watching right now who would say that I've never heard of a company that wants to help me basically be more secure, coming in and trying to extort me, and basically being the hackers that are involved.
Yeah, as far as we understand, and what others who do cybersecurity protection have indicated, Tiversa's business model is very unique and very strange, and as a whistleblower testified, likely illegal. And so it raises a serious question, especially for the American people, as to who really is out there protecting consumer information. When the good guys, like a cancer detection lab, are brought enforcement actions and held liable, but the Federal Trade Commission doesn't go after the hackers, are we really protecting consumers, or are we just increasing government power and increasing the power of crony companies?
And what we're talking about here is a group that apparently Tiversa scammed this LabMD. LabMD tried to fight this for years. The FTC went after the lab when they wouldn't pay the company. Basically, this company, LabMD, had to go under because they just didn't have the money to fight anymore, correct?
That's right. LabMD is our client. We are still fighting against the Federal Trade Commission. I think what really all listeners should and viewers should really be concerned about is, to what degree are we really being protected by a government that relies on hackers to bring enforcement actions? What we know about LabMD is not a single LabMD customer believed that their information was ever put at risk. There was no evidence of consumer harm, and yet the company that was actually harming consumers, was hacking companies, this Tiversa, was never held liable, was never investigated. Yet a company that was out there curing cancer all of a sudden becomes hostage to the government and gets investigated, and ultimately is punished by this investigatory process by our government.
Well, that's
they
the thing
no longer
here, Dan,
helping.
That we have to point out. I only got a minute left. I want to make sure we point this out here, that Tiversa said there was a data breach. There was none, because they basically caused the data breach. The FTC, the government, then comes in, and the FTC believed this. Didn't the FTC do any sort of investigation here to find out if these guys were being scammed?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The Oversight Committee came out with a report that the FTC did no investigation to determine whether this evidence was authentic. And that's really the problem. The government can go after anyone for any reason or no reason. And when they're required to be protecting consumers through their investigations, they're actually protecting the people who are most harmful to consumers. And that's what we pointed out with this case.
So I got about 30 seconds left here. What's the end result here? What do you hope to gain out of this?
Well, cause of action is going to continue to fight against the Federal Trade Commission. We've asked the Federal Trade Commission to themselves agree to a referral of this company to the feds, to the Justice Department for prosecution. Hopefully that occurs. Ultimately, what we hope is that the FTC wisens up and starts going after the bad guys and stops going after the people who are out there helping American consumers.
A government agency that basically takes what is said by a company as complete Bible and basically helps put another company out of business. Shocking. I want to remind everybody that a way to find out what's happening here, learn more about this case, go to causeofaction.org and find out how the fight goes. Dan Epstein, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up next, getting the frauds at FIFA on MidPoint.